10. So we should be able to start our program in another 2 minutes. Dr. Mukherjee is ready with his slides. And I have with me Dr. Shivshankar, the current president of the Indian Orthopedic Association. It gives me a great honor to invite Dr. Shivshankar to start off this Sunday morning academic discussion on a well-awaited topic on orthopedics and rheumatology, or knowledge of rheumatology for a practicing orthopedic surgeon. The lecture being delivered by none other than Dr. Arup Mukherjee from Delhi. Over to Dr. Shivshankar.
Thank you, Dr. L. Prakash. Good morning, everybody. I would like to welcome all of you for this Sunday morning webinar on a very interesting topic, concept of rheumatology and its management in orthopedic practice by Dr. Arup Mukherjee. I was introduced to Dr. Arup Mukherjee through some of the WhatsApp group by Dr. Prakash, and I have been seeing there are various ways of tackling, and there are scientific reasons behind it in having different modes of treatment. And Arup Mukherjee has shared so many of his prescriptions on the group that even I have started following in some of my patients. Only time will tell how much it is going to be of help, but definitely the scientific way of thinking, what he explains, is beautiful, and I'm convinced that this is going to be a definitely very interesting session we are going to have. And I'm happy that my friend Dr. L. Prakash, I can call him as my friend, though he's my teacher, because I worked under him way back in 1994 for some time. I know him since 1992 when I attended his live demonstration surgery at Jaipur Golden Hospital in New Delhi in February 1992. So it's 28 years now. And we were together in Ahmedabad the day before he was arrested in Chennai. So that's our relation with Dr. L. Prakash. So I know him for so many years, and he is also excellent scientist, having beautiful thinking ways, and we all have seen him on various platforms, including as a magician. Recently, we saw his Zoom magic show also. I hope we'll have some magic show also for orthopedic surgeon in due course of time. So I think now it is 9 o'clock. I'll hand over the mic back to Dr. Prakash. Thank you very much.
1 minute. I think Dr. Naveen has come and he's there. He has another webinar that is 9:05. Welcome, Dr. Naveen.
Yes. Good morning to all. Good morning, Dr. L. Prakash.
Show your face and say hello, and because you leave early.
Yes. Hello to everybody, and very much thankful to Dr. L. Prakash and the whole group of IOS for managing this wonderful time of the corona, for knowing all the aspects of immunity and treatment part, which has discussed extensively in many groups. So I thank to, as I will needed to join at some other webinar also. So I'm very much sorry not be able to continue whole webinar. I will see the recorded version also. So thanks to all for attending this webinar and supporting this event. Thank you, Dr. L. Prakash.
My request to all members to please mute your mics so that we can hear Dr. Mukherjee speaking. All new entrants should also mute their mics when they enter the room. If there's too much disturbance from any particular mic, I will mute it once. If it is more than once, then I will remove that member from the group. We shall be posting a recording of this in YouTube subsequently. I hand over the mic to Arup Mukherjee to start speaking, and he can share his screen whenever he is ready. Over to Dr. Mukherjee. Dr. Mukherjee, you can start.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Thanks, Dr. Prakash, for your kind words. This is the day awaited when we need to clear up some of our concepts about rheumatology in Dr. Prakash has been requested because long after I have orthopedic practice needs to be discussed as I know about it. We see indications of my regime and the rationale of using it will also be discussed here. My humble contribution is to develop a safe regime to manage the autoimmune disorders we so commonly see in our day-to-day orthopedic practice. Now, using disease-modifying anti-rheumatoid drugs.
Speak a little louder. You have to bring the mic closer or speak a little louder. Your voice is not clear.
Is it now clear?
If you, where is the mic? Is it too far from you?
Hello, is clear? No, इसको ऑफ कर दो. I will talk to him directly. Just a minute. The sound is not clear.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you are clearer.
Oh, yes, thank you. Screen share. This is my humble contribution is to develop a safe regime to manage rheumatological disorders in our day-to-day orthopedic practice. We all know that for rheumatological disorders, DMARDs are recommended, but nobody says how much DMARD, when to give it, and to whom to give it, how safe it is. We all know that DMARDs are not very safe medication, but at the same time, how long when we keep the patients on painkillers? So this is a small step towards a safe practice in orthopedics. In order to develop this regime, what my friends call as Dr. Mukherjee's regime, I had put my 30 years of orthopedic experience, and I pay my thanks to the countless poor patients who rendered themselves for developing Dr. Mukherjee's regime, what we know as for now. My tribute to Professor A.K. Gupta. He was the teacher of the teachers. Professor Varghese Chako was one of his first students. So it is his encouragement who has always helped me. The second tribute is to this scientist, Dr. Yallapragada Subbarao, the scientist who discovered the wonder drugs. He discovered fulvite, folic acid, and he also discovered methotrexate, and both his discoveries he handed over to the scientist called Fisk, who was given the Nobel Prize for the discovery made by Dr. Yallapragada Subbarao. We all should salute this man. Even today, methotrexate, his discovered drug, is the gold standard for rheumatoid arthritis. Now, what is the concept of autoimmune and rheumatological disorder? Rheumatological disorder, in order to understand what is a rheumatological disorder, we should know the concept of autoimmunity. Or immunology is the basic requirement to gain the knowledge about this rheumatological disorder. Immunology is the language of rheumatology, and without immunology, it is impossible to understand the rheumatology. One can't explain the patient the reasons of his problem. When the patient has got so many questions, we should be able to share the information with the patient, what he is being treated, what he is being suffering from, and how far the treatment is going to go, and what are the risk factors. This is not taught in our undergraduate level of MBBS. Hence, it is difficult to understand immunology for many of the orthopedic surgeons, but we'll try to put it in a very simple words. Why this has become more relevant today after COVID-19 pandemic? COVID-19 attacks the vulnerable population with a labile autoimmune reaction. Now, I have put a word, labile autoimmune reaction. There is a lot of word in the media about low immunity, high immunity. There is nothing of low immunity or a high immunity. There is a population who has got a labile autoimmune system, and other one is a stable autoimmune system. The people who are labile autoimmune system, who have labile autoimmune system, are prone to repeated allergies, and especially infections like viral infections, which are pandemic these days, like chikungunya and COVID-19, and that can cause a rapid flare-up in their system. Now, who is an autoimmune labile person? We are all born with lymphocytes. Now, lymphocytes are of two types. One is the T cell and another is the B cell. We are all born with an N number of T cell. That means a thymus dependent cell. These T cells record the allergic substance and produce antibodies against it, so that our system does not react against it. The T cell with a memory of allergen is also noted on its surface. The B cell has these on the surface of the B cell. We can say it as we can label it as a CD4 cell, CD6 cell, CD25, according to their memory. Now, vaccination against various pathogens consume our T cell memory, and we are left with limited T cells after vaccination to record new allergen and produce fresh antibodies. The more blank T cell we have, longer will live. That is why some people around the globe don't want vaccination for their children to keep blank T cell for these uncertain pandemics. As we grow old, the number of T cells also reduces. And in case of an allergen which enters our body, the response for the round cell, that is lymphocyte, will only increase the number of B cells. And when the number of B cell will increase, then we will have various problems due to the increased level of cytokines in the system. So a T cell will recognize the allergen and produce antibodies against it, so that our body and the system does not react with that allergic factor. When the system has no memory of the fresh antigen in the system, then the B lymphocyte starts producing inflammatory cytokines. I think this is clear. I will repeat, when the system has no memory of the fresh antigen, then B lymphocyte starts producing inflammatory cytokines. Inflammatory cytokines can be labeled as prostaglandin 1, prostaglandin 2, IL-6, IL-4, tumor necrotic factor alpha, cytokines, etc. So when these are circulated in the body, our body CRP raise, the inflammatory index in the body rises, and then the problem is that our body goes into a defensive mode against a fresh risk of infection. Why we are seeing more autoimmune disorders likely? Now, first is, as we have increased number of population, then we are seeing more number of patients, and the share of autoimmune disorder have also increased. The second reason is increased pollution, the increased AQI, that is air quality index in the air which we are breathing every day. That causes more and more allergic reaction in the body. Third is the increased vehicles, which means we are walking less and less day by day, and thereby our effort in tolerance is going down. Even for a piece of bread or buying something, we will just take our bike, or we don't prefer to walk for simple reasons, which our forefathers usually did.
Roop, please, you have to I have to change some parts. Somebody else started screening the sharing the screen, which is spoiling our screen. So I've changed it to only one participant at a time, and the host can share the screen. Now I will make you the co-host, and then you can share the screen. Now I've made you the co-host, and only you can share the screen. Now we'll start sharing. Now share screen again.
No, I was talking, why are we seeing
share the screen.
more autoimmune? Am I not sharing the screen?
No, you have to share screen again.
I have to share the screen again.
There will be a green button in the bottom. Yes, your screen is now shared. Correct.
Yes. So what are we talking? Why are we seeing more autoimmune disorder these days? The one reason is increased population. Another reason is increased pollution. Thereby, it is causing more allergic reactions. Increased vehicles means we are physically, having less effort tolerance, and we get tired soon because we are not used to walking or physical exercise. More food varieties means now we are consuming global foods. Our forefathers have not visited New Zealand or Australia and other far off countries. Varieties of cheese and other products are coming from those countries which our body is getting exposed to, which our forefathers have never been exposed to. So that is the reason we are seeing more new food allergies. Now more food production by non-organic chemicals and use of pesticides and insecticides are giving us food which are prone to produce more allergies. Now the target tissues in autoimmune disorder. The disorder affects these tissues. Number one is a synovial tissue we see as an inflammation in the joints, musculoskeletal tissue, inflammation in the muscles and bone. Another non-skeletal part which is involved in the inflammation is intima of the blood vessel. Thereby, small nodules of micro-inflammations are formed in the intima of the blood vessel on which there is a deposition of cholesterol or calcium, thereby constricting the blood vessel. Increased sympathetic tone is also seen in autoimmune disorder. More angiotensin release causing hypertension. When the blood vessels are affected, then secondary changes are also seen in heart, brain, kidney, and peripheral circulation, and even the lower limbs. And in emergency mode, liver starts collecting fat. And that is what we see in ultrasound studies of arthritic patient, that they are showing fatty changes in the liver, as well as dyslipidemia in men. Now the principles of therapy is to start medication in the safe limit to control the autoimmune activity, to decreasing levels of toxin, like to decrease the levels of toxin, what I was talking about, PG1, TNF-alpha, IL-6, cytokines, to prevent tissue generation. These toxins, these cytokines have got strong enzymes. They are proteinous enzymes, and they cause very quick tissue degeneration and breakdown. Control the acidity and GI irritability in order to get better absorption of DMARD. I give 4 DMARDs at a time, 2 each on alternate days in suboptimal dose, so that the risk of toxicity is minimized. Since methylprednisolone is given in a very small dose regularly, hence I supplement vitamin A to reduce the steroid-induced oxidative stress. Certain DMARDs take a longer time to be effective. Hence, initial first month or 6 weeks, a dose of steroid has to be started in. By the time end of a month, the rest of the DMARDs, they will take the effect, and then you can taper the steroid dose to a minimal of 2 milligram per day or 2 milligram alternately. Now, arthritis is a chronic disease leading to protein and calcium malnutrition, which leads to early aging and degenerative changes in the old age, as we see in the old age. But these changes are visible to us in young patients before even they are getting old. Hence, there is a interpretation of degenerative changes, as we see in the radiological report, should always be age related. The radiologist does not see the patient. He only sees the X-ray or the image. And seeing the image, he will say degenerative changes. But it is the clinician who has to relate the degenerative changes according to the occupation as well as the age of the patient. Now the principles of therapy will continue. I always supplement vitamin B12 as this is not absorbed in absence of intrinsic factor in the stomach, and antibodies are produced against the neurotransmitter and the intrinsic factors, so that there is a vitamin D deficiency in the system. This causes peripheral neuropathy, and I may reiterate again that peripheral neuropathy is more common than even diabetes. So patients who are suffering from peripheral neuropathy, they are also diabetic as well as arthritic. As arthritis is associated with vitamin D deficiency. Why? Because vitamin D activation happens in the kidney. And kidneys are first affected in autoimmune disorders and arthritis. And vitamin D deficiency is the part and parcel of an arthritic patient. But in order to make these patients more acceptable to DMARD, I will keep my vitamin D level to nearly 100 nanograms per ml or 250 nanomole per liter, whatever the unit is in the report. Because of protein loss, I will compensate the protein by giving these patients whey protein or basic protein, because as we advance in our age, we cannot digest complex protein, which is animal protein. So in order to break these long protein molecules into simple molecules, it is better to take whey protein, which is easily digested in all ages. Now, in the treatment, the basic treatment is methotrexate and folic acid, being antagonistic to each other. So one has to go on alternate days. We cannot give methotrexate and folic acid on the same day. So I give it alternate day because the tablets are very small. So I give it in the fasting condition to ensure maximum absorption. I give methotrexate 2.5 milligram, very low dose on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and folic acid 5 mg on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, vitamin D on every Sunday. This is a standard protocol in most of my prescription, which ensures at least one safe DMARD. Now, what is the regime? This is a definition I have picked up from our medical textbook of medicine like Davidson. The doses of drug, frequency and timing of its administration constitute the dosage, the regimen. Each prescription should be according to what patient you are seeing, and you try to find the regimen that produces the best therapeutic effect with a minimal side effect or adverse effect in that particular patient. I have already talked about it. The magic of Mukherjee's regime is, this is the old which goes on in the WhatsApp, and people ask me how to use it. This is a very simple way how I use it in my prescription. And on the left hand side is what I shared with Dr. Prakash, and on the right hand side I will just say to note it down the way I share it with my junior colleagues in our group. This is a balanced prescription to face autoimmune disorders without adverse effects. I have used these regime for decades, 30 years. So many patients have got cured. And the best part is even the patient does not come. Sometimes the patient will come after 1 year and he has been taking the medicine because there is no symptom or it has been able to minimize his symptoms. But to my surprise, there is no ill effects to be seen in the blood or in the patient. But that should not give you the overconfidence that you can use these medication in this prescription without getting the primary blood test. So all the patients in whom you think they need this prescription, they should get a primary blood test, an ultrasound of the abdomen. Why? Because these arthritic patients have already got fatty changes in the liver. They already have, so many times they find renal calculus, they have IBS. This is all as a package deal of arthritis. But you should know, and the patient should also know, that these things were already in my system before I started the medication. He should know his platelet count, he should know his total count, he should know all the basic parameters of the blood test, as well as the ultrasound, as well as the X-ray of the extremity, so that in subsequent and the follow-up visit, he should be compared with the basic test he came to see the doctor. So this is not even necessary, but it is good for the safety and protecting yourself against the medico-legal implications. See, this is what I was talking about, the magic of Mukherjee's regime. See, this woman who had a bilateral arthritis, you see that the joint space has significantly disappeared. The right hip has got no joint space. It is practically fusing there. But now with the treatment, see, I have given, this is an X-ray of 2018 and this is an X-ray of 2021. And the same hip, you see, the left has recovered completely and the right has shown a fibrocartilage all around the head of the femur without any collapse. And see, the arthritis has disappeared with the same regime. It shows that the treatment I started in 2018 continued till this year, 3 years, with the same regime, with a maintenance dose, and it was safe in a woman. Now, this is the range of flexion in the right hip. So what you saw is the same patient who was not able to walk. With the regime and the safety of the regime also, you can see in 3 years' time, I could give her a near normal hip and near normal walk and gait. Now, what is the importance of this regime? It is important because in our orthopedic OPD, except trauma, except infection, except congenital problems, most of the patients have problems related to rheumatology. So if you have a doubt how to give relief to this patient without giving a single painkiller, then my regime will come to your help. Now, what are these patients asking me? In my experience, I have just tried to recollect what are these patients asking me when they come to the OPD. I always say that this is a disease which is inherited. You have got genes in it. Now, when the patient asks this, why it has happened to me, why my knee is painful, my friend's knee is not painful, or like that. So then I say, this is genetic. You have inherited genes from your parents or set of parents, which is causing this. Then they say, if you are saying it is genetic, why was it not there last year? You can always say that suppose somebody is diabetic. It is not necessary that he will be diabetic at the age of 25. He can be diabetic at the age of 36 or 45. According to these manifestations depend upon gene penetration at different stage of life. Then they say, I used to get well with a course of painkiller, but why I am not getting well anymore? You can say because there is a constant increase in the intensity of the disease with age. So now these painkillers will be harming you more than doing good. So don't take painkillers. Then the patient may ask, will this happen to my children? I will say, yes, they may happen to your children, and your children will be deficient in vitamin D and B12. So always supplement your children with vitamin D and B12 so that there is no impediment in their growth. Why do I feel so tired at the end of the day or after little exertion? This is the highlighting character of any arthritis, that you feel very tired end of the day or after working for a while. Then there is a word in the morning stiffness. That means, why does my back feel so stiff in the morning? Common question. So that also, because the toxins start collecting. When you are lying on your back, they start collecting wherever is the water, because the arthritic body absorbs water. And when you are lying, these goes, the water spreads all over the body, especially on the face. So when the patient gets up in the morning, arthritic patient, they will find that they have a little swelling on the face and in the back of the neck. So you can explain that is the reason. When you get up, all the extra water that drains to the lower part of the body so that the swelling disappears. And end of the day, your feet will swell because arthritic patient absorb water. So this extra water keeps on shifting from the feet to the face, to the neck, or to the lower back. My blood test does not indicate arthritis as RA factor is negative. Now, RA factor is the most idiotic test in diagnosing rheumatoid arthritis. Only 5% of the patients have RA positive, but 95% of the patients suffer from arthritis. RA factor is positive, then the patient gets a treatment. RA factor is negative, because the patient does not get treatment and the patient keeps on suffering. So RA factor is the most misleading test in the history of medicine. So never believe in RA factor, to my version. Will my condition be like my parents with the time? Now, many patients say, my mother is also suffering from arthritis, and will I become like my mother? No, your mother lived in an age where medicines were not developed. Now you live in an age where medicines to control this disease has developed. But I cannot cure you. This is the very important question, suggestion I give to the patient. When I will be all right? I say, you will be all right, say, couple of years later. But your medicine will not stop ever, because this is a genetic disease. You cannot change your parents. So disease is either active or inactive in your body. When you feel that you are cured, that means disease is under remission. You are never cured. My job is to give your disease, force this disease into remission by medication. Then women usually will assure me that this prescription will not cause weight gain, as this has got supplements and vitamins and steroid. You can assure them this prescription will not cause any weight gain, except in those patients where they have IBD or IBS, irritable bowel disease, is an inflammatory bowel disease, is a disease which is also cured by my regime or put under remission. So they start improving absorption from the food stuff, and that is the reason they gain weight. So keep your patients in fruits and salads in the afternoon, so that, because now they have started absorbing more nutrients from their diet, so they may cause a little more weight gain, but that has to be explained to them. Now, I always tell my patient to do the stairs, to walk, to squat, to sit on the floor, while other doctors are advising against it. So don't do the stairs, don't squat or sit on the floor. But my patients, when they are under remission, you have to start regaining what you have lost. Try bit by bit, and there are set of exercises I advise them so that their joint mobility improves. Now, another question is painful joint, what should I apply, hot or cold? My simple answer is, if it is a post-injury joint, then apply cold. If it is an arthritic joint, apply warm. Why is, I have already told you, associated problems of arthritis, I will discuss later. And in this way, I can say that the autoimmune or rheumatological disorders are major or minor autoimmune disorders. Now, arthritis, asthma, and ulcerative colitis are the major autoimmune disorders. I again repeat, arthritis, asthma, and ulcerative colitis are major autoimmune disorders, while hyperacidity, hypothyroidism, diabetes, psoriasis, vitiligo, and enthesopathies are all minor autoimmune disorders. Previously, in rheumatological disorders, we had factors, or major factors and minor factors. Then we were able to diagnose. I say these days, you have got major autoimmune disorder and minor autoimmune disorder. A major autoimmune disorder will never come to existence disorder, be it pigmentation of the skin, be it IBS, be it hypothyroidism, be it hypertension. So this is your, when you are seeing these patients and you find an associated minor autoimmune disorder, immediately you should clinch to the diagnosis. Yes, I am seeing an arthritic patient. It is an autoimmune disorder because there is another minor autoimmune disorder. Now, there is often a controversy, or there is an argument with is, or you're talking about rheumatoid arthritis and has been treating rheumatoid osteoarthritis with rheumatoid arthritis. Autoimmune disorder, while rheumatoid arthritis is a major autoimmune disorder. than a different pathology of the disease. They can interchange.
I think Dr. Mukherjee has lost his connection. We'll have to wait a minute till he comes online again. He was having unstable connection. So let me summarize what he has been saying so far, that the term rheumatoid arthritis in itself is a misnomer, and it is a conglomeration of various conditions manifesting in almost all the body systems. And hypertension, diabetes, irritable bowel syndrome, and allied minor manifestations are part and parcel of the whole arthritic complex. And by the precise and correct use of DMARD, we can control the disease. Let me see where Dr. Mukherjee is. 1 minute. I'll make a call to him. Mukherjee, are you back? Dr. Mukherjee, are you back?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Now we can hear. Your voice was completely cut. I think your signal
Because of unstable internet.
has it come back stably now?
Can you hear me? That is all right.
Yes, I can. We can hear you. Yes.
All right. Now, what I was quickly repeat what Prakash also told, that arthritis is, there is a difference between osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis in perception of the doctor. A doctor who has been taught that osteoarthritis is different from rheumatoid arthritis, for him it is to unlearn that osteoarthritis is episodes, multiple episodes of arthritis, intermittent with remission, whereas rheumatoid arthritis is an unremitting disease, and so rheumatoid arthritis causes major harm in the body, while osteoarthritis has got remission intervals, so that the patient says, I was all right last year, this year only I have got bad. But in osteoarthritic patients also, the other organs of the body have got effect of arthritis, like in liver, like in kidneys, like in intestine, like in respiration, like in effort intolerance. Everything is there in osteoarthritis patient, but to a minor degree. But in rheumatoid, these are in a major degree. So I have been treating seropositive rheumatoid, more than say 80-90,000 of them, with my same regime, with the 4 drugs regime, and they all go into remission. Now a patient who was seropositive at one stage, they have all become seronegative. Some may take 6 months, some may take 1 year, or intermittently they become seropositive. What is a seropositive? That the rheumatoid factor after certain titration becomes positive, then the pathologist says it is seropositive. A titration below 1/20th of serum dilution is negative. So they are saying they're seronegative. That is the reason I tell that rheumatoid factor is the most misleading test in the management of arthritis. Arthritis has to be diagnosed by the doctor, by the treating doctor, not by the pathologist, not by the radiologist. You have to come and diagnose it. This is arthritis, and I will force this disease into remission. That should be the confidence of the doctor. Always remember, there is a minor difference between osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. Now, I was discussing that already. What are the systemic manifestations of arthritis? It was hyperacidity, hypothyroidism, IBS, PCOD, eye problems like keratitis, conjunctivitis, dry eyes. An arthritis patient can have a sudden loss of vision because of the thrombosis of the retinal vessel and optic nerve. These are the systemic manifestation of arthritis. So that is the reason I always say, before starting the regime, get the ultrasound and the blood test done so that the patient and the doctor both know what the condition they have come with. Liver shows fatty changes and dyslipidemia, and also autoimmune hepatitis if may. Kidneys rise in serum creatinine, CKD, anemia, vitamin D deficiency, stone formation because of the mobilization of calcium in the inflamed skeleton. That is often backache patients will come with a stone formation in the kidney because in inflammation there is mobilization of calcium from the affected skeleton, and this is leached into the blood, and this blood, when the patient is drinking less water, then this can precipitate in the kidneys. Vitamin deficiencies which are commonly seen are vitamin D, B12, E, and levocarnitine. Hormonal deficiencies. Why these are hormonal deficiencies? Like diabetes, like growth factors, because there are autoantibodies secreted against these hormones, which leads to hypothyroidism, because there is autoantibodies against thyroxine, diabetes, insulin resistance, steroid depletion, and antibodies against testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, FH hormones. So these leads to deficiency of these hormones, and the effect is that the target organs do not mature or do not develop. And that is the reason of PCOD in young women who have arthritic parents. If you see a arthritic patient and she has a grown-up or a young daughter, get her ultrasound done so that you should know that she is not suffering from PCODs, because it is a transmitted disease, genetic transmission to the daughters as PCOD and to sons as dyslipidemia, obesity, and blood pressure. So you are not even treating an arthritic patient, but you are also knowing about the next generation, that what they are supposed to suffer from. And that is the reason my patient list never shrinks, because when I discuss these patients, I take about half an hour for the first counseling and I discuss these things with the patient. They come to know a lot of things about their disease, and when they see a similar patient in their brothers, in their sisters, in their blood related families, they bring those patients to me. Ki, Doctor, inko bhi hua hai. See, these are the patients. Then that keeps on increasing. Sharing the information with the patient is very necessary. Now the skin changes. The women are very particular about the skin pigmentation, and then you can assure them that skin pigmentation on the face will also fade with time as you continue the treatment. Seborrheic dermatitis and hair loss is also because of rheumatoid or autoimmune disorder, vitiligo, and hardening of nails because of the atherosclerosis and delayed blood supply, poor blood flow in the lower limbs. We see with age that our nails become hard because of the poor blood flow, poor protein intake, because nails and hairs are protein. And when we do not take adequate protein, when the protein intake is inadequate, then we see loss of hairs as well as hardening of the nails, because the nails do not grow and they become hard. Now the blood vessels and blood have got different changes in arthritis. The blood vessel shows thrombosis, and focal inflammation in the intima of the blood vessels leads to thromboangiotins obliterans and secondary deposition of whatever is available in excess, either amyloid or calcium or cholesterol during the remission. That causes ischemia to heart, to the coronary vessel, to brain, to cerebral vessels, and the mesenteric blood vessels. So that is the reason with advancing age, we see poor blood flow in the brain of arthritic patients, and they become very forgetful, as all of us will become one day, but they become forgetful or they show deficiency in brain functions much earlier than when they are old. Now, collection of cholesterol and clotting in the blood in small capillaries leads to darkening of the skin in the lower extremity. I have shown it in my group that so many patients come with the dark leg and feet because of arthritis. When you start treating them, these patients, this blood clot starts disappearing and the skin becomes same as the color of the proximal thigh or the leg. So this is a live example on how can you reverse the clotting in and the thrombosis of the blood vessels. This thrombosis is the cause of avascular necrosis in solitary blood vessels. So the patients, the solitary blood vessel is what we see in eye, the retinal vessels, the vasa nervosa of the optic nerve, they also get thrombosed and the patient can experience a sudden loss of vision. So my regime in low doses can prevent a lot of secondary changes because of arthritis. And remember, these arthritic changes are very slow and over a period of years. So what we call as old age is not true for all my population, all my patients. 60 years is not old age. 70 years is not old age in my dictionary. I will always find why this man is, or this person is so tired, so weak, so arthritic at age of 60. The doctor will say degenerative changes, but I will try to find out why this person is suffering more degeneration than someone else. Now the role of DBARDs in spondyloarthritis. Now one can always argue, see the MRI. The MRI shows so many degenerative changes, and there is a stenosis of the nerve roots of the spinal cord, and that is the reason of his problems and the pain. But one thing you should realize, that the spine is a complex tissue of bone, ligaments, and synovial joints of facet joints, and nerves are also lying in the hollow canal. The problems and the pain is because of the nerves. Either they are because what the blood Again, internet. Are you able to hear me all?
Yes, you get occasionally you become
Yes,
unstable, but now you're okay. Occasionally your voice cuts, but now you're okay.
Now what does this Mukherjee
Again, Dr. Mukherjee has gone offline. We will give him a few minutes. Anyway, he has got only about 10-15 minutes more to go. We've got it back.
If he stops his video, then the audio will be easier because video takes a lot of bandwidth.
Ah,
The connection is unstable. He can just continue with the audio and slides.
just mute his camera.
Just a second.
Good idea, good idea. Dr. Mukherjee, Dr. Mukherjee, if you just close your camera and then share your screen and use audio only, we can hear the slideshow without taking too much of bandwidth, which is being consumed by video. I got this message also from Dr. Karne in the messages, but at that time your speed was okay, so I did not want to interrupt you. I think if he's going to take time, we can start answering the questions one by one put since morning. Dr. Divakar is there?
Yes, I am here.
Will you open up your mic?
Okay, I've done it.
We'll wait for Dr. Mukherjee's connection to get stable. No, your face is also not clear to me. Your virtual background and you are overlapping.
Am I visible now?
You are overlapping.
No, that is a different issue, Dr. Divakar. Dr. Divakar has to go to his video background and it asks there, can you want to continue the smart background? Then he should click yes. Then this problem will be over. Otherwise, he'll constant have overlapping of the backgrounds. That is overlapping of backgrounds.
Just say no background. Dr. Divakar has to take away virtual background. Dr. Mukherjee has now come. Let us give him the Dr. Mukherjee,
Yes.
in case your connection is unstable, you
Is
can.
is it unstable?
No, it is now stable.
Yes, that it will be stable because I am very near to the Wi-Fi.
Oh, okay. Let me pin you. Yes.
Is it clear now?
Yes, you are clear. Share your screen and go ahead.
Share screen.
Dr. Divakar's problem is over now. Now, again, he has taken a background. If he takes a background, then the overlapping occurs.
Dr. Divakar, you must remove your background. No background. Virtual
And that can be solved when he goes for a background. It gives a message that do you want to have smart background or something of that kind. He should say yes, and then that problem is over. Or download the smart background. That's what something he asks. It happened with me once, and I got clear like that.
Yes, now you are clear. And
Am I sharing my screen with all of you?
yes, we can see you. Now, in case there is any problem in audio,
Yes.
you can just cut out your video
Okay.
so that your face will be seen. Your picture will be seen, your voice will be heard, and slides will be seen. That doesn't consume that much of bandwidth. Now you can continue.
Yes. So I was discussing about the role of DMARDs or Mukherjee's regime in spondyloarthritis. Now, spine being a complex tissue of bone, ligaments, and synovial joints and nerves in a hollow canal, we have complex variety of pain in the lower back. And chronic, what happens in arthritis is that the chronic inflammation of arthritis is affecting the ligamentum flavum and is causing the thickening and leading to secondary stenosis of the spinal canal and the root canal. This chronic thickening of the ligamentum flavum is reduced by Dr. Mukherjee's regime. It will cause shrinking of ligamentum flavum, thereby releasing the stenosis and giving pain relief. Facet joints are synovial joints and are supplied by dorsal sensory nerve roots or also to the paraspinal muscles, thereby causing lumbago. Or it can lead to acute reactive arthritis. Suppose there is a acute reaction and the patient can have a sudden lumbago. Now, this is what I wanted to share. This is not infection. This is a spine which has got multiple vertebral bodies which are inflamed. You can see L4, L5, L3 with Schmorl's nodes. These are the signs of inflammation, not even in the whole spine. The bones are affected. And the Schmorl's nodes are there. Why? Because the capsule of the disc capsule has become soft, the bone has become soft, and the capsule is impinging upon inside the vertebral body, causing Schmorl's nodes. So these are the final or confirmation of spondyloarthritis. This is what a radiologist calls as degenerative changes. But how can it be a degenerative changes in a 60-year-old man? 60-year-old is a young man. These are changes brought by the disease over the period of 10 years, 15 years, whatever. Now see the thickening of the ligamentum flavum. I have marked them so that what is not visible in an X-ray is the thickness of the ligamentum flavum. See the enlarged facet joints and osteophyte and the ligamentum flavum. So when I give these disease modifying dose in a controlled way, they also shrink. This additive extra thickening reduces and releases the pressure on the spinal cord and the nerve roots. This patient came to me with a foot drop or spinal stenosis, the X-ray which I showed him. See the foot drop he had. Now with the treatment, he is a patient, Mr. Rajendra. He had weakness in both the lower limbs, secondary to stenosis, had a right foot drop, and MRI showed this of degenerative changes. And see, now both the feet are properly, the left one is normal, the right one is now showing dorsiflexion against gravity. That means he has recovered significantly, the pressure has recovered. So it is not necessary, without giving a trial of low dose DMARDs, to operate on these patients just because they have a neurological deficit. Another common patient sitting in our OPD is a medial compartment arthritis of the knee joint. Previously, this group of patients was considered as suffering from osteoarthritis. You ask 90% of the orthopedic surgeons will say that, oh, this is osteoarthritis, there is no treatment available for this. But in my dictionary, this is a classic example of fluctuating inflammatory activity in the medial joint line, leading to regional secondary osteoporosis and bone softening. So the medial side of the knee joint in the leg has got only one cortex and is more prone to become soft because of the weight gain, especially in the women because of the wider pelvis. So when this area becomes soft, that causes increasing varus day by day. The outward or the lateral cortex is supported by fibula. So there is a support already. So the inner side, there is a single cortical bone. Hence the varus deformity happens due to unequal distribution of weight, which is progressive. This is developing over a period of years. Now, PFO surgery or proximal fibular osteotomy surgery helps in rectifying the cause by removing the two lateral cortices of the fibula and helping for a equal weight distribution. This is a classic example which we see. This is a varus knee. This woman had so much softening of the upper part of the tibia in the right leg that she developed a pathological fracture or a stress fracture. And everyone before me saw this woman and said, knee replacement, knee replacement, knee replacement. This is not an indication of knee replacement. It needs the re-replacement of principles of orthopedics in the mind of the surgeon, that this is not knee replacement. This is because of intermittent inflammatory arthritis leading to regional osteoporosis and softening of the bones, and because of the weight bearing, there is a increasing varus with time. Now, this woman, this is another patient in which the primary, this has been done by someone else in Delhi, but the patient came to me that even after this surgery, I am not well, because the surgeon has rightly detected the medial compartment arthritis and he has done a PFO, bilateral PFO, done well, although it is very close to the common peripheral nerve, but still it is successful, safe. But the patient is not relieved. What is the problem? The problem is that because of surgery, the arthritis have flared up. Surgery is an injury. I always tell my patients, surgery is an injury, and you inflict an injury in an already inflamed joint, thereby causing more inflammation. So that is the reason after TKR, the patient sometimes even abuses the orthoplasty surgeon. That what you have done to my knee, I was able to walk, and this is an unbearable pain because he has changed the knee. Yes, this knee has sustained a major surgical insult and the inflammation has gone many folds. So initial 3 months of a total knee replacement is highly painful. And the surgeon does not want to take the rounds. He always sends the junior to take the round because the patient is in pain, and who is going to face all those things in the post-op rounds. So I gave this patient the treatment which I am fond of giving, and this patient is pain-free. A perfectly executed surgery was getting a bad name because of the lack of knowledge of the surgeon that is an arthritic joint, arthritis is inflammatory, and you have induced more inflammation by doing a surgery. So you have to calm down the joint by giving Mukherjee's regime, and the patient will be all right. Causes of flare-up of an arthritic activity. This is a remission and activation of the disease. So sometimes minor injury can flare up an acute arthritis, and the whole region is stiff, inflamed, red, and the patient does not want to talk, anyone want to touch it. This is called as a RSD or CRPS1 in acute cases. Sudden changes in weather and temperature, moist and cold weather promotes arthritis, further, especially in the temperate climate which lacks sunshine. So when these patients come from a cold weather suddenly to a warm weather, taking a flight, then the body does not know how to control. And then they can have an acute arthritic attack, which I call, or you can see it in the books as reactive arthritis. So this arthritis has formed out of reaction due to sudden change in the temperature, due to sudden or even a minor injury, due to a surgery or intake of a sour food. I tell my patients, khatta na khao. Khatta khate hi, this will flare up. And you can also advise them to take sour food sometimes so that they realize what is this type of food doing to their system. Another thing is air pollution. The air quality index is especially harmful to provoke arthritis. That is the reason we see that arthritis flares up in the winter season, not because of the temperature. Wrong teaching. I again repeat, it is not because of the temperature, it is because of the AQI. In winters, the AQI is India is nearly 400, or at least many times. In Australia, New Zealand, Canada, AQI or air quality index is 20. In India, in winters, air quality index is 400 or more. That is the reason we have more arthritic activation in winters. If you send these patients to New Zealand, Australia or Canada where AQI is less, although there is more cold temperature, but still they do well. So this is my experience in Delhi, because I usually told them it will happen in winters. But when my patients went abroad, they said, oh, I had a wonderful winter there, but I never had pain. Because of the air quality index in those countries is only 20 maximum. And we are taking this as, that is the reason I say pollution is the worst thing to happen in an autoimmune disorder person. Now, viral infection can provoke. We have always seen chikungunya provoking arthritis. A sleeping arthritis will all of a sudden rise and will cause acute arthritic flare-up. This can also happen in COVID. So that is the reason, even after vaccination of the patient of the COVID vaccine, patients have started arthritic activity which was already under remission. So this is to share with our colleagues. Food allergies, I have already told. Food allergies, if it causes, it can also cause arthritic activity. My contribution is that I can force this arthritic activity into remission without damaging the patient, without damaging the system. And I can keep it under remission if the patient follows my instructions and keeps on doing exercises. Why exercises? Over the period of years, we have seen that exercises, physical endurance prevents arthritis. So the moment patient is in remission, I always encourage the patient to do the stairs, to squat, to increase the thigh muscle power. When the patient increases his physical stamina, that is the sure shot guarantee of a longer remission. And that is the reason physical endurance has to be improved, whereas arthritis always decreases your physical endurance. So as soon as I force the patient into remission, their arthritis activity is under remission, the patient should be encouraged to do physical exercises to improve the physical strength. Because in active cases, physical strength is not achieved. Now, what are these drugs? We are talking about after COVID-19, patients are being given infliximab, etanercept. These are biological disease modifying drugs. I am using only traditional low grade, low dose disease modifying drug. These are biological disease modifying drugs. They will reduce the immunity for a period of 6 months. So most of these drugs are effective, say, for 6 weeks, for 6 months or 3 months, like that. But at the same time, they decrease your immunity so much that often it is recommended that you give them 3 months of ATT and then you give biologicals, because their dormant tubercular infection will flare up. So I never advise, or I never try to give all these. There are so many of them, like adalimumab, tofacitinib, and iguratimod. Of late, because iguratimod is a valuable adjunct to methotrexate, that is recommended every day, but I give it only 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays, or with methotrexate 25 milligram, just in case when the disease activity or the pain is little higher, but I withdraw it soon after that. So the thing is, these are, in my language, the way to understand an arthritic patient, to enforce remission in an arthritic patient. And as soon as you enforce your remission in arthritic patient, you will see that their skin blemishes have gone, there is a glow in the skin, their energy level has improved, their digestion have improved, their bowel habits have improved, their mood habits are improved, they are more cheerful, they are more active, and they bless me. Probably I have taken more blessing from these countless patients over the period of 30 years. And to ensure you more, my longest follow-up with my regime is 30 years. But I always keep it every 3 to 4 months. I just get the CBC done, the SGPT creatinine done, in order to make sure that the internally patient is all right. Externally, they will come and greet you, they will thank you. They are very thankful patients, very thankful patients. They may not be paying you for surgery, but they are extremely thankful patient. And one patient you cure, you will get 5 as a bonus. Thank you very much. If you want any questions here, if you have any questions, I am ready to answer them.
Dr. Mukherjee, you can stop sharing your screen.
Yes.
Sir, I have a question. Can I raise it?
Yes, you can start the questions. You just stop sharing the screen and
Just a minute.
screen mode. You can
Stop sharing the screen.
downstairs will be green button. Yes, good. Good. Now we can ask the.
Sir, I have 2 important things to ask you. This is Dr. Sushil. Sir. So already in touch with you for so many patients already. So, sir, one thing I want to know is, we are starting the treatment. That's fine. So how do you monitor the patient has started getting the response? How to decide when to stop which drug and when to completely stop a drug, or till when to continue all the drugs? That is, sir, question 1. Second one is, you said OA and RA are overlapping things. They keep on going side by side. That I agree to that, sir. In patients of OA, osteoarthritis, who are having significant osteoarthritis, do you recommend that we can use the same regime, the Mukherjee regime, for some of them or for all of them? These are 2 things, sir.
To answer to your first question, to the second question is that I told you the RA and OA is the same disease of different magnitude.
Correct, sir.
OA is an intermittent attacks of inflammatory arthritis. RA is a continuous
inflammatory arthritis, sometimes more, sometimes less. Sometimes the problem with the patient is that poor fellow is not showing your RA test as a positive. So highly expensive
So probably Mukherjee sir's net
Yes,
stuck again now.
voice is completely gone. We'll wait for another. Dr. Mukherjee, are you there? Dr. Mukherjee, we are not getting your audio.
Can I comment one thing?
Just a minute.
Dr. Karne.
Yeah, there are two different stages in the osteoarthritis. Sometimes you get a dry osteoarthritis and the wet osteoarthritis, that is the effusion, and that is the inflammatory component. So when there is an inflammatory osteoarthritis, then Dr. Mukherjee sir's regime will be definitely helpful in that. But sometimes it's just a dry one. There is no inflammation as such. Just a comment.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Now, I was telling Dr. Vijay that what we are giving in Dr. Mukherjee's regime is a combination of medicine to enforce remission on a disease. Now, a seropositive disease will take more doses of or a longer period of dosage, but as soon as it becomes a seronegative, then you can reduce the doses on maintenance dose. Now, maintenance dose is, I've already shared with so many of them, that is a low dose. That means you, instead of giving 3 times methotrexate, you give only 2 times. Instead of 3 times sulfasalazine, you give only 2 times. Instead of 3 times HCQS, you give only 2 times. And then you reduce also the HCQS. Under remission, I always give HCQS 200 milligram twice a week. SARS or Celazopirin 500 milligram twice a week. Methotrexate 2.5 milligram Tuesdays and Saturdays. And vitamin D twice a week. So I keep the patient well nourished, keep the medication at low, tell the patient to continue consuming whey protein and calcium and come back to me whenever there is an increase in pain. Whenever there is an increase in pain, I will go for the CRP or ESR test to see if the disease activity has raised or if the patient is only complaining of neurological pain. If there is a neurological pain, then you can add 2 milligram of Medrol at night, as well as for a week or so, you can take pregabalin 75 for a week or two, not beyond that. So this is my, what was the other question, Vijay? Tell me.
Sir, the other question was, sir, which drug is to be stopped when? How to taper off the drugs or when to stop? Like I have a patient, I discussed with you, the avian patient, the rheumatoid patients. Yesterday also I had a very, very interesting case. I'll share the X-rays with you. Highly destructive erosive bones. So I'm going to start this Mukherjee regime in that patient. So how to, sir, decrease the dosage and how to decide when to stop the treatment? Let's say in case of avian or in RA, means RA will never stop, but how to remove the drugs?
Never stop. Arthritis will never stop. Avian may stop after 3 years as soon as there is a complete vascularization of the bone. When you can see the bony trabeculae passing along the whole length of the head and neck, then you can stop. That means the sequestered area or the sclerosed bone area has gone and it is now normal. So I have given my regime for avian patient for years together. Now, what happens that what I would like to add again, that you should not allow the head of the femur to collapse. A collapsed head of the femur will never regain its shape. So, but it will regain the circulation, I'm sure about it. So, don't allow the patient to walk freely in the initial 2 months or 3 months. Tell him to restrict his walking indoors only for a couple of months till the time the blood is in the circulation and it started showing its effect. So
Right.
there is a two regime. One is a starting regime, one other one is a maintenance regime. When you keep the patient on maintenance regime in a remission phase, and I already tell these patients that this is a genetic disease, the disease has become active, and I will force it to remission to become inactive. But when it is going to be active again, I can't say. Is that clear?
Correct, sir. So I have to continue the same regime, right? For AV and also
Same
the
regime with the low dose. With the
low dose for 2 to 3 years till the trabeculae can be seen.
Then the trabeculae is seen in the entire head area.
Correct, sir.
And the
Thank you, sir.
system is
Thank you so
gone.
much.
The next question is, what is the safety of Mukherjee regime in diabetics?
Oh, very good and important question. Now, the only problem that my many insulin-dependent diabetic came to tablets on metformin or with sulfonylurea. That means what was happening, what does Mukherjee regime do? Mukherjee regime actually minimizes the patient's autoimmune reaction in the system. So this autoimmune reaction is against the patient's own secreted insulin as well. So when the patient is on Mukherjee regime, this stops or reduces the autoimmune antibodies against insulin. That means the secreted insulin is active in the blood for a longer duration of time. Because of the antibodies, this insulin was neutralized by antibodies, and so it was missing the target organs. So what is metformin? Metformin is also a low dose. It is a low intensity DMARD, and it prevents autoantibodies to work on insulin molecules secreted by the patient. So insulin is working in the system for a longer time. And most of these patients, now gradually with time, less and less islet cells remain active and it gets fibrosed. The old one which are not secreting gets fibrosed, and so patient is totally insulin dependent. What we have to do is to prevent these islet cells from dying. Now these autoantibodies also kill the islet cells. So when patient is on Mukherjee regime, these islet cells are living longer. And that is the reason I tell that patients on HCQS have got a better glycemic control than on two drugs. Two drugs is, one is metformin, another one is sulfonylurea. So that means, say, glimepiride 1 or 2 milligram with metformin is 2 drugs. When you add HCQS, it is a 3 drug, and it is highly effective against in diabetes to control the blood sugar. So it is possible that many patients have come off the insulin and are on tablets, on oral hypoglycemic agents. Is that clear?
Clear. Now the question is there any role of Ayurvedic drugs like Rumalia Fort, etc. in RA?
Actually, cinchona bark or some babool bark, they have got tendencies of anti-inflammatory tendencies against musculoskeletal tissues. These have been being used in our Ayurveda for centuries, say 1,000 years. But what is their mode of action? What is the active ingredients? I do not know. But many pharmacological companies have brought out the purified form of the salt, and they are selling it in the name of, say, one medicine is from Mankind, that is Ortho2. The active ingredient is 50 milligram of some very common medicine as an associate we have been using, Rumalia. These are the various roots and barks, which have a basic tendencies to reduce the inflammation. Also, tamarind, haldi, which also has a strong tendency to reduce inflammation in the body. So, but I don't have what is the knowledge, what is the active ingredient of these products.
Next question is, which drug in your regime do you think is responsible for the thinning of the hypertrophied ligamentum flavum? Because it will be revolutionary and it will stop 80% of surgeries in spinal canal stenosis.
Already 80% has reduced. Already 80% of the surgeries have reduced, failed back surgeries. Because see, it is not possible, or it is not possible by an average spine or orthopedic surgeon to entirely dissect the ligamentum flavum out, except by Dr. Gore's technique. He puts his endoscope inside the foramen and shaves off that ligamentum flavum entirely by surgical means. I have lost a large number of patients of carpal tunnel syndrome. Say the patients, the ligamentum flavum and the transverse carpal ligament are identical. Only the site is different. One is in the palm, one is in the spine. Now what happens that when I keep my patients of carpal tunnel that I will operate next month and I give them on Mukherjee regime, the carpal tunnel recovers and the patient is reluctant in getting the surgery done. Now the same happens on decurvence also. The extensor retinaculum, which is thickened in decurvence and which gives a stenotic effect on the extensors of the thumb on the first compartment, is surgically released. When I keep these patients on Mukherjee regime, they become all right. The trigger finger becomes all right in a month. The plantar fasciitis becomes all right within 2-3 months. The refractory enthesopathies, what Sachin Tendulkar suffered, that is the tennis elbow, does not need any surgery. You keep them. Kanpur, when I come to Kanpur, the Kanpur has got a cricket training center and a lot of young players come to me for enthesopathy around shoulder. I keep them on Mukherjee regime and they start throwing the ball again. Otherwise, they were, they were not performing well. So what I think that just another friend said that there are dry arthritis and wet arthritis. Dry arthritis in full form is ankylosing spondylitis. Wet arthritis in full form is rheumatoid arthritis. What is the problem with the dry arthritis? Because of the fibrosis, the blood flow is not there in the site. So that is the reason my drugs do not reach that site. So whenever I treat enthesopathies like calcaneal heel spur or retrocalcaneal pains, I always add aspirin so that the patient's drug becomes a little thinner and my drug penetration to the sites improves. So periarthritis shoulder is also the same dry arthritis. So nature and the pathophysiology is the same.
Next question.
Anything else?
Can methylprednisolone be substituted by deflazacort?
Methylprednisolone is easy to reduce because we can't give steroid in a high dose, but methylprednisolone has a shortest half-life oral tablet and it is very easy to taper the dose. That is the reason I give methylprednisolone. Deflazacort, the patient gets addicted. He said, I can't stop it. That is the reason.
Hello, sir. Arthroplasty surgeon, at which stage will you recommend replacement? Is your regime continued along with replacement? What percentage of your patients have not responded to your regime and needed arthroplasty?
Now, I just give you an example that a patient came to me with a knee pain and she was ready to go undergo a replacement at that place where Prakash you were, that Switzerland where Professor was.
Davos.
Her husband, huh? Sorry?
Davos.
Yes, her husband was working there as an engineer in some different department. She said the professor is ready to do a knee replacement in my knee. But you told me one thing, that your knee is osteoporotic. You can't fix a nail in a weak wall. So first you get your wall strong and then you get a knee replacement. And she told the same thing to the professor there in Germany, in Switzerland. And he said, well, agreed. If you can get a doctor who can improve your bone density, and I did that because bone density can be measured. So I got a bone density done. For 1 year, she was pain-free. Bone density improved with my regime. I sent her for a knee replacement. Now you get a knee replacement. And professor was surprised that when she showed her series of BMTs improving day by day, pain reducing day by day, and because of the virus and also because of the secondary changes, she underwent a knee replacement there. So I am pretty sure that a knee replacement can be delayed. The only problem is the orthoplasty surgeon will lose the patient for a knee replacement if he starts my regime. Because the moment the pain is gone, the patient is unwilling for a surgery.
Dr. Diwakar, are you there?
Yes, I am here. Okay.
Yes, Dr. Diwakar, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Now can you switch on your mic and switch on your video?
Video I cannot because I am changing my clothes.
Okay, doesn't matter. You had something to say about triamcinolone as a steroid.
Yes, triamcinolone is another wonder which I have done in rheumatological and other systemic disorder. So whatever you have been seeing, that immediate recovery of Guillain-Barré syndrome, severe Stevens-Johnson syndrome, you simply give 40 to 120 milligram in a single dose, and the recovery is wonderful. So because triamcinolone has got most potent anti-inflammatory activity, so it has to be choice where there is severity.
Sir, because of adrenal shutdown is there if you give 80 milligram triamcinolone IM. Hello, I'm Dr.
So
Jignesh.
this thing has not been seen till now because I have cured many Stevens-Johnson syndrome which have been developed at various medical colleges, and patient told their doctor that please give me 2 days, I'll come back for the surgery. He says it's impossible. Your skin is shedding. He came to me, took triamcinolone, went back to surgery within 3 days. So this is some wonder, has to be explored. This is observation. All right. So this is I have saved 3 post-COVID Guillain-Barré syndrome here, and 2 physicians who expired because of Guillain-Barré syndrome because they went to the Medanta hospital. So that's why
Dr. Shivshankar.
triamcinolone is something wonder which should be used whenever you want a very, very powerful anti-inflammatory action.
And
I don't think it suppresses because I have never seen low blood pressure or something Addison syndrome after using high dose 80 to 120 milligram.
Sir, can ashwagandha can be substituted for steroid? Ashwagandha is
Ashwagandha can be substituted. Ashwagandha is a very, very diverse medicine that can. This is ashwagandha is most useful in FUB, functional uterine bleeding. This has been told to me by many herbal specialists. I have seen the drug works only in single dosing. Severe psychosis, easy. I have used it in rheumatoid arthritis and other. I used it for my own prostate, but it did not work. But it works wonderfully in functional uterine bleeding.
A simultaneous question to Mukherjee sir, that after injection decadurabolin and vitamin D3 combined, patient feels 50% relief.
Oh, he may be right because I have attended a decadurabolin meeting in Goa, and there they have proved that addition of decadurabolin improve all the efficacy of anti-inflammatory drugs.
Okay, Dr. Q. Shankar will conclude the meeting today by giving us a summary of what he has understood and what his advice is for the younger surgeons, and caution them about reducing the haste towards arthroplasty and using common sense approach in handling arthritis based on the pearls of wisdom heard from Dr. Mukherjee today. Over to Dr. Shiv Shankar.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Prakash. And you already summarized what I would have said. And Dr. Mukherjee has really made simplified, and he has shared his regimen with all of us. And we should try out and use it. And definitely, if it is going to be of help, then we can continue. So it's not that if works with somebody should work with others. Everybody has their own varieties of patients. So there is regional bias. India is a large country. North India, South India, the climate is different. The, as you said, air quality in North India in winter, definitely the air quality is poor, but in South India, air quality is definitely far better than what he says. So definitely, since 30 years of his experience with over 70,000 patients cannot be brushed off. And we all have seen his cases which are remission. Some of the x-rays he has already shown here, but I have seen much more because I am with him in the WhatsApp group and he keeps sharing some of his cases. And definitely it's going to be of very great help. And as Prakash said, probably if we start this regimen in time, probably the arthroplasty people will have less number of patients. Thank you very much, Dr. Mukherjee, for this wonderful talk. I congratulate you. I congratulate once again you for having maintained so many records with you and sharing your vast knowledge. And I sometimes feel that whether you are an orthopedic surgeon or a extraordinary medical scientist, because you have so many answers for everything. Even when we were discussing COVID last year, you had such a wonderful idea, and your idea have been having some basis. It's not that is just out of the box you are thinking something without any basis, but your explanation why you want to do this, all this have been very useful to all of us. And definitely this video, at present there are 80 people, but definitely many more people will see once it is posted on YouTube by Dr. Prakash. Thank you very much. And I must thank all the people who have joined, and I must thank Dr. Karne and other people who have asked questions and discussed to get more out of Dr. Mukherjee. Thank you very much. Hand over to Prakash too.
Thank you very much. Before I conclude, one small announcement. Coming Saturday at 7:30 p.m., there will be talks by myself and Dr. Divakar on the role of piroxicam in cytokine storm in COVID. So it is of interest not only to orthopedic surgeons, but also other physicians. I shall share the link to you soon. A recording of this is being made and downloaded, and by 12 o'clock, it shall be posted in YouTube, and you should be all given the links. My thanks to Dr. Karne, Dr. Shiv Shankar, Dr. Arvind Divakar, and our Secretary of IOA, and most of all, greatest thanks to Dr. Mukherjee for really sharing the pearls of his wisdom, which will help many a budding surgeon to know what exactly rheumatoid arthritis is. Thank you all. Thank you.